Struggling single mom discarded an awful blind date unexpectedly captivating a lonely CEO. Jenna took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the rim of her milkshake, its coolness a stark contrast to the swirling disappointment coiling in her gut. The restaurant buzzed with laughter and clinking cutlery, but all she could focus on was the derisive gleam in Brad's eyes as he scoffed at her dedication to her kids. Time wasters, he called them, dismissing the very essence of her life. Anguish flickered through her like wildfire. She had just fought so hard to balance being a dedicated nurse with the chaos of raising Max and Sophie, only to sit across from a man who couldn't even understand her world. Was it so wrong to want something more than mere survival? Her heart raced, not the exhilarating thrill of newfound love, but something darker, indignation. I can't do this, she thought, feeling the weight of 1,000 expectations crumbling onto her shoulders. Jenna rose abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor as the awkward silence swallowed the air around her. She stepped outside, the night air a welcome balm against her emotional wounds, free. The word echoed in her mind, even as she felt the remnants of defeat clinging to her like a heavy coat. She walked into a nearby coffee shop, hoping to reset her thoughts with a hot cup of activity. But what she found was more than caffeine. It was Ryan, a tech CEO whose world was stiff with numbers but whose gaze flickered with intrigue at her fiery spirit. "Excuse me," he said gently, breaking into her thoughts. Jenna's stomach twisted. Could she trust this man after the jab she'd just endured? Yet she felt compelled to speak, and as the moonlight filtered through the window, each word she shared chipped away at her hardened shell. She revealed her unflagging resolve, a nurse committed to her patients by night and a mother battling her own demons by day. The weight of her struggles surfaced in fragments, each detail an open wound, yet Ryan didn't turn away. Instead, he nodded, allowing her honesty to fill the space between them. This moment felt like an oasis in a desert of disappointment, yet shadows lurked just out of sight. Then she noticed the subtle twinge in Ryan's brow. Something was not right. What lay beneath his polished exterior? Anxiety crept in and churned her mind, questioning if she truly had room for more chaos in her life. Just as hope started to bloom in her heart, a familiar face swept in, the barista's expression revealing his connection to Ryan. The jarring presence sent ice through her veins. Jenna's instincts kicked in. She felt both kinship with Ryan's vulnerability and caution. She was terrified of stepping into yet another abyss. Could she allow herself to fall for someone who might harbor secrets that could unravel the fragile balance she had built? As uncertainty wrestled within her, Jenna could barely catch her breath. The growing connection with Ryan ignited a fierce yearning, but the dread of history repeating itself loomed like a thundercloud. Their eyes met, an unspoken tension lingering between them. She stood at a crossroads, her heart clamoring for connection while her mind warned of consequences. Could she even trust this connection, or would it blow her world apart? With her pulse echoing in her ears, Jenna took a step back, grappling with the tumult of her emotions. This moment held the potential for love, but what would be the cost of venturing into the unknown again? Jenna stepped outside, gasping for fresh air as the cool breeze wrapped around her, almost like a protective embrace urging her to let go of the emotional turmoil roiling inside. With every step away from the coffee shop, she could feel the remnants of defeat peeling away, revealing a sense of freedom she hadn't realized she was longing for. This wasn't merely about leaving a disappointing date, it was about reclaiming her narrative. Determined to shift her perspective, Jenna walked home, the rhythm of her footsteps beating against the pavement like a pulse. She reviewed every word exchanged with Ryan in her mind. Each moment where transparency filled the air could have been an opportunity but had instead collided with uncertainty. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, a man who seemed to bridge the chasm between her chaotic world and a life of stability. But was the allure worth the risk? Back home, the familiar chaos welcomed her. The sight of Max and Sophie sprawled on the living room floor, faces illuminated by the soft glow of the TV, grounded Jenna. She sank onto the couch beside them, allowing their innocent laughter to distract her from the nagging thoughts of Ryan. As Sophie leaned against her, her small fingers entwining with Jenna's, a wave of gratitude coursed through her. This was her reality, and no blind date could overshadow the love filling her life. Still, the memory of Ryan's gaze lingered. The flicker of admiration and the way he truly listened drew her in deeper than she imagined. Was she ready to delve into a new chapter of her life? The question gnawed at her. That night, restless in bed, Jenna pondered her choices, mapping out how she had come to this moment. Hadn't she spent years putting her dreams on hold? Her nursing career was a source of pride and fulfillment, but a part of her craved more than the responsibilities that anchored her. Perhaps that initial spark she felt with Ryan represented a chance not just at love, but at rejuvenation. Deep down, she knew she couldn't afford to close herself off from possibilities, even if they arrived cloaked in uncertainty. Morning brought clarity. After dropping the kids off at school, Jenna returned home with newfound determination. Taking a seat at the kitchen table, she opened her laptop. Today marked her first step not just in contemplating a romantic connection, but in exploring her professional aspirations. Jenna navigated to a well-known online platform for professional networking. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard, but she reminded herself that vulnerability was essential for growth. She began crafting her profile, her resume glowing against her past as a beacon of accomplishments. Each detail she added reinforced her identity as more than just a single mother or a nurse. She was Jenna, a woman whose drive and resilience could lead to new opportunities. As her profile formed, an urge nudged her, a desire to reach out to Ryan once more. Perhaps they could connect simply as individuals. Maybe she would find strength in sharing her aspirations with him, a reflection of her newfound self-acceptance. The thought exhilarated and terrified her. Daring to extend a hand in friendship, she composed a brief message, recounting her surprise at their interaction and expressing a desire to continue their conversation. Before she let doubt creep in, she hit send and sat back, her heart racing. Achieving professional self-worth took courage, but she was done shying away from opportunities. Life was shifting around her in ways she had not anticipated, pulling her into uncharted territory, but even as excitement bubbled inside her, a knot of anxiety tightened in her chest. Would Ryan respond? And if he did, what secrets might their friendship unravel? The unknown loomed ahead, a thrilling precipice waiting to be explored. Unbeknownst to Jenna, confrontation and discovery awaited her just on the horizon. Life was about to challenge her far beyond her expectations. Jenna awoke the next morning with the sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, illuminating the path toward her ambitions. The sense of anticipation swirled around her like the soft morning light, igniting a spark of excitement and determination deep within. Her phone lay on the bedside table, still and silent, yet within it lay the potential for new connections, new opportunities. She took a deep breath, inhaling not just the morning air, but the promise of change. As she showered, she mentally reviewed her goals not just as a nurse or a mother, but as Jenna, a multifaceted woman with aspirations yet to be realized. She envisioned stepping out of her comfort zone and embracing the chance to forge a new identity shaped not by her circumstances, but by her choices. After sending the kids off to school, Jenna poured herself a cup of coffee, the warm mug fitting perfectly in her hands as she settled at the kitchen table. She could feel the energy vibrating within her, the urge to do more, to chase the visions reforming in her mind. Opening her laptop again, she navigated to the same networking platform and began searching for local workshops in nursing and health management. She was ready to invest in herself, to carve out a path that respected her past but did not confine her. Diving into research, she scrolled through posts detailing various seminars, mentorship programs, and courses tailored for nurses aiming for leadership roles. The prospect of meeting others who shared her drive and dreams filled her with a mix of hope and anxiety. What if they didn't accept her? What if she wasn't enough? The thoughts threatened to sidetrack her but were swiftly quelled by the realization of her own strength. With determination coursing through her veins, she signed up for a workshop on health administration. This wasn't just a course, it symbolized a declaration of intent to step into the future she envisioned. The commitment felt monumental, a leap away from the familiar grind of everyday obligations. Little did she know that locking in this decision would present unexpected challenges, some external, and others deeply personal. Just as Jenna felt herself settling into this new realm of professional potential, a notification from her phone broke through the tranquility of her thoughts. Ryan had replied to her message. Her heart raced, racing thoughts erupting into an internal monologue that danced between curiosity and trepidation. What would he say? Would he question her intentions? Quickly, she scrolled through his response, the words unfurling like a map laying out uncharted territory. Each sentence was warm and inviting, expressing his own desire to meet again, to have deeper conversations and explore their mutual interests. The allure of his invitation pulled at her like a magnetic force, yet it also stoked flames of doubt. Was she ready to peel back the layers of her carefully constructed life and share the vulnerable parts of herself with someone she barely knew? With a clenched jaw and resolute determination, Jenna typed her reply, suggesting they meet for coffee again. This time, she wouldn't hide behind the mask of a disinterested participant. This time she would be authentic, embracing whatever followed. As she hit send, she could feel the giddiness of embracing the unknown intertwined with fear and intoxicating mix motivating her to leap. As anticipation built inside her with every passing moment, she recalled the capabilities she once neglected. The excitement was both exhilarating and terrifying. She stood poised at another precipice. The stakes were increasing, and life was signaling her that nothing worthwhile came without facing challenges. In the days that followed, Jenna plunged into her preparations for both her new career path and her evolving connection with Ryan. But with every move she made toward embracing her aspirations, shadows of her anxieties loomed larger. Could she reconcile her two worlds, the responsibilities of motherhood that grounded her and the professional ambitions that soared? With recent developments escalating rapidly, Jenna felt the tension brewing. She was nearing a point of no return, caught precariously between three worlds: a mother, a nurse stepping into a new identity, and the budding promise of a relationship. The question nagged relentlessly, when pushing boundaries to pursue personal growth, how much of herself was she willing to risk revealing? Jenna knew one thing: life was about to intensify, and the next unfolding chapter awaited her with answers, or perhaps, more questions than she could ever conjure on her own. Jenna's heart pounded incessantly as anticipation coiled within her like a tightly wound spring. She stood before the mirror, her fingers brushing through her hair as she prepped for her second meeting with Ryan. The glowing reflection staring back at her was shifting, almost unrecognizable. Could she truly present this new version of herself when vulnerability felt like walking a tightrope? As she refined her appearance, anxiety flickered in and out of her consciousness, overshadowed by a growing determination to unveil the confident woman she aspired to be. The cafe where they planned to meet buzzed with life, its warm decor and aromatic coffee captivating patrons lost in their conversations. But for Jenna, the vibrant atmosphere only amplified her nerves. What was she doing here? This wasn't just a casual encounter. It was a pivotal moment, a test run for her own courage to embrace change. As she settled into a corner table, her thoughts drifted back to the workshop she had enrolled in. The prospect of new skills and knowledge invigorated her as much as the symbolism of it all, the realization of her desire for more than just the daily grind. She was ready to forge a new professional identity, yet the rising tides of her personal life threatened to collide with her ambitions. Ryan arrived moments later, and Jenna felt an electric thrill surge through her as their eyes met. He offered a warm smile, his presence a comforting blanket amid the chaos of her internal struggle. They exchanged pleasantries, but Jenna fought to keep the conversation flowing. Small talk was no longer sufficient, she yearned for depth. As they sipped their drinks, the weight of her past washed over her like a wave, pulling her back to a time when she felt lost and unsure. Just as she gathered her nerve to open up, Ryan shared his vision for the future, a venture he was passionate about that could potentially change lives. His words danced with conviction and excitement, and Jenna felt the stirrings of aspiration within her. Something clicked, she could sense an opportunity to blend their divergent paths. But then a shudder of self-doubt broke through the moment. Who was she to entertain ideas that could disrupt the status quo? As Jenna mulled over her insecurities, a sudden urge pierced through the fog of indecision. The budding professional inside her compelled her to confront the obstacles holding her back. What about you, Jenna? She questioned herself internally. What are your dreams? The silence stretched between them, laden with unshared truths. Jenna decided to break it. You know, I've been thinking about taking my nursing career in a different direction, she stated, her voice stronger than she felt. I want to pursue health administration, contribute to the system in ways that resonate with my values. To her surprise, Ryan's eyes brightened. That's incredible. You'll bring a fresh perspective to the field. Do you have any plans yet? His enthusiasm was genuine, igniting a flicker of belief in Jenna. For the first time, allowing herself to envision the direction she wanted to go forward wasn't met with resistance. Instead, it bloomed confidently in her heart. Their conversation flowed, and as the barriers of hesitation loosened, Jenna found herself sharing challenges that molded her into the woman she had become, the mother she wanted to be, and how she was navigating this complex intersection of life roles. But just as she sought to unveil more of her ambitions, a familiar wave of anxiety crashed over her. Could she maintain this newfound openness? Was Ryan merely intrigued by the novelty of her aspirations, or could their connection withstand the strain of her insecurities? With every revelation came the daunting question of whether she could sustain the momentum, both professionally and personally. The standing challenge bubbled to the surface. How would she reconcile unveiling her passion without fully exposing herself to the potential hurt that comes with vulnerability? As their meeting flowed seamlessly into a deeper discussion about aspirations, the uneasy truth quietly loomed: Jenna was navigating a pivot, one with an uncertain outcome. Her heart raced with the juxtaposition of exhilaration and fear, accompanied by a growing realization that the forthcoming weeks would test her resolve in ways she had yet to imagine. During one particularly resonant exchange, the tone shifted. Ryan leaned closer, his eyes narrowing with genuine focus. Let's challenge each other on this journey. Don't hold back, Jenna. The best version of ourselves is worth pursuing, together. Jenna felt a rush of warmth and possibility pool in her chest. Perhaps she wasn't just stepping into a new role, she was stepping toward a collaborative partnership that couldn't only benefit her but elevate both their aspirations. Yet beneath that sense of triumph lingered a nagging thought: was moving forward with Ryan a step toward realizing her true self, or was it simply masking the fears she had yet to conquer? As they wrapped up their meeting, Jenna anticipated facing further complexities ahead. She needed clarity before she dove deeper, before intertwining her story with his. In the days ahead, as she delved into her workshop learnings, Jenna would confront the deeper truths lurking in her mind, determined to fully embrace the potential of her journey while wrestling with lingering uncertainties she had not yet touched upon. And that looming question haunted her: at what point would she need to confront the reality of who she was becoming and the risk embedded in that evolution? The answers awaited her, their shadows waiting just beyond the horizon. Jenna sat at her kitchen table, the workshop materials sprawled before her like a battleground. Copying the course outline had become a ritual, each word reinforcing the direction she wanted to go. Yet despite her efforts, a gnawing unease persisted, a relentless whisper taunting her to reconsider her ambitions. Was she truly ready to upgrade her professional identity? The stakes felt impossibly high. As the sun streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the warm air, Jenna couldn't help but reflect on her long-held beliefs. Nursing had always defined her, it was her safety net, her comfort zone. Transitioning into health administration felt like stepping from solid ground into an abyss, where uncertainties loomed larger than the aspirations that gently nudged her. She quickly flipped through her notes, landing on a section that spoke about self-advocacy. The words resonated, igniting the flicker of courage she experienced during her meeting with Ryan. I need to articulate my vision, she muttered to herself as she penned down her ideas. Suddenly, clarity washed over her. The workshop wasn't just a course, it was a means to forge her identity, the very identity she feared would dissolve in vulnerability. She recalled Ryan's encouraging words. They had struck a chord, pushing her to embrace the notion that collaboration could yield growth. Her thoughts turned to her role as a mother and how she wanted to model resilience for her children. If she stumbled on this career path, wouldn't she be teaching them about perseverance and the necessity of owning one's choices? Jenna's phone buzzed, breaking her reverie. It was a message from Ryan. Hey, how about we meet next week to discuss our next steps? Your passion was infectious. Let's keep the momentum going. The invitation hit her like a wave. Excitement mingled with anxiety as she contemplated how to navigate their next interaction. Could she genuinely share her fears with him? What if exposing her vulnerabilities caused him to withdraw? Yet the alternative to remain silent felt like surrendering her newfound conviction. With a deep breath, Jenna crafted a response that encapsulated her enthusiasm while subtly addressing her reservations. Absolutely, Ryan. I'd love to brainstorm and dive deeper into our ideas. I'm really enthusiastic about where this can lead. Pushing back her insecurities, she pored over topics in her workshop that she found particularly inspiring: leadership, conflict resolution, and the importance of vision in shaping healthcare policies. The more she studied, the more energized she felt. Renewed strength surged through her, creating a spark within her that seemed too powerful to ignore. Yet, somewhere in the recesses of her mind, doubts began to seed. Would Ryan see her as more than an aspiring individual soaking up knowledge? When she gave voice to her ambitions, would he consider her merely a distraction from his goals? These thoughts gnawed at her determination, but she wrestled with them, forcing herself to maintain focus on her journey. In the coming days, Jenna threw herself into the workshop, exploring every facet of the material and applying it to her reality. She reflected on moments in her nursing career that shaped her understanding of patient care and management. Each revelation propelled her forward, weaving a tapestry of insights connecting her past with her vision for the future. As she sat in the workshop, surrounded by peers who shared their experiences, Jenna began to awake dormant belief within herself. Her voice grew steadier with each contribution she made. However, with every ounce of progress came the weighty realization that her pursuits were fraught with risk. The fear of failure loomed large. The thought of stepping forward into the unknown dichotomized her existence into before and after. That evening, Jenna returned home to find her children sprawled across the living room floor, giggling and sharing imaginative stories. Watching them, an uncomfortable truth surfaced within: what legacy did she want to leave for them? They thrived in a world that supported authenticity, and so should she. Her internal battle began to tilt. The prospect of exploring health administration no longer felt like an escape but a challenge she was determined to meet head-on. However, in that moment of clarity, the question remained: would she have the courage to confront her fears and invite Ryan into this part of her evolution? The next week loomed like a specter, pulling her toward a junction where her past, present, and possible future would converge. As she prepared herself for the inevitable conversation, the tension tightened in her chest. Would she manage to connect the dots, or would the openness she sought elude her? The time had come to put all she had learned to the test. Would she embrace vulnerability, or would fear echo in her heart, hindering the very progress she fought to achieve? The clock ticked painfully slow, each second amplifying her urgency to learn, grow, and ultimately, change. The agreed-upon day dawned, an hour away from her meeting with Ryan. Jenna paced her living room, her mind racing with countless scenarios. What if he dismissed her ideas? What if he found her aspirations trivial? The internal monologue swirled around her like a frenzied storm. Each second felt laden with the weight of self-doubt, threatening to drown out the clarity she had felt so recently. She fixed her gaze on the mirror, scrutinizing her reflection. This was more than a casual brainstorming session, it was a pivotal moment that could redefine her future. Today is not just another meeting. It's a declaration, she murmured. It felt ridiculous, almost performative, but affirming the challenge before her served as a mental anchor. Deciding to dress with purpose, she carefully selected an outfit that projected professionalism while remaining true to her character. Each piece she adorned her body with spurred confidence, a quick reminder of her nursing background and the strong, compassionate woman she had always been. With each button fastened and fold tucked into place, she fortified her resolve, sculpting the image she wanted to present. The familiar drive to their rendezvous brought with it an avalanche of emotions. As the streets whizzed by, Jenna practiced her pitch, role-playing both sides of the conversation in her head. Would she share her vision for health administration, the reforms she wanted to chase, and the pathways she envisioned? Or would fear clamp down on her throat, stifling the genuine discourse she craved? Upon arriving at the cafe, Jenna hesitated at the entrance, a fleeting thought nearly convincing her to flee. But a deep breath reminded her of the purpose behind this meeting. She had walked through this threshold of uncertainty before, in the sterile hospital wards where lives hung in the balance, and she'd navigated those treacherous waters with grace. She could do this. As she entered, Ryan sat in a corner booth, scanning the room. The moment he caught her eye, his smile radiated confidence, something she both craved and envied. Jenna felt the familiar tug of insecurity but pushed against it. If vulnerability was her chosen path, she had to embrace the moment for all it was worth. "Hey, Jenna. I'm so glad you made it," he exclaimed, standing to greet her. The warmth of his presence washed over her, easing the tightness in her chest as they settled into their seats. "Thanks for inviting me," she managed, her heart racing under the facade of casual conversation. There was no going back now, her time for honesty had finally arrived. They dove into a discussion about their respective aspirations, and Jenna found herself illuminated by the exchange. She spoke about her vision for healthcare, weaving in stories from her nursing experience to highlight her understanding of the challenges and opportunities within the system. Ryan listened, and his engagement revealed an unexpected eagerness, yet, as the conversation deepened, Jenna felt a flicker of vulnerability stir within her. Should she confess the fear that had haunted her? Would that vulnerability diminish her strength in his eyes? It was an internal conflict she hadn't anticipated. As the discussion evolved, she pivoted. "You know, it's more than just the logistics for me. It's about creating a healthcare environment that value patient experience and staff morale equally." There it was, her truth surfacing, grappling with the fears she scorned just moments before. Ryan leaned in, intrigued. "What's your ultimate goal?" The question hung in the air, and Jenna struggled to define it with clarity. Was it to improve patient care? Or to step boldly into uncharted territory? The responses tumbled around her, risking exposure. "I want to lead a change that prioritizes empathy in administration," she finally uttered, her resolve crystallizing. His eyes sparkled with interest, drawing her in further. "That's ambitious. I appreciate where you're coming from. But can I ask, what's holding you back?" The question hit hard. It felt like both an interrogation and a lifeline. Jenna hesitated. The truth clawed at her throat. With newfound determination, she leaned into the discomfort. "Honestly? Fear. Fear of failure, fear of being seen as inadequate. But if I want to model bravery for my children, then I have to embrace risk." Silence enveloped them. Ryan studied her, a storm of thoughts flickering across his face. Jenna could sense the shift, the mutual recognition of courage radiating from their openness. The weight of their conversation hung heavy, and just as clarity began to take shape, she realized this was a moment she could not let fray at the seams. Before she could reflect on the implications of her admission, Ryan leaned in. "What if we work together to ensure that fear doesn't define our choices?" His proposition startled her. A collaboration was not just an ethereal notion anymore. Could she risk trusting him with her ambitions? As the cafe buzzed around them, two worlds collided, intertwining dreams and vulnerabilities. Jenna found herself at a decisive crossroads, one that threatened to advance her journey or risk it all. Would she leap into this uncharted partnership and pursue growth, or would her insecurities force her to retreat back into the familiar? The air was thick with potential, wrapped in an unvoiced promise. In this moment of fragile connection, she knew the next step would challenge everything she thought she understood about her limits. Would the thawing vulnerability turn into a decisive force for her future? Jenna sat across from Ryan, the bustling cafe fading into a blur as his proposition crashed against her thoughts like waves against a stubborn shore. Together? Would it truly be possible to forge a partnership built on their shared fears and dreams? Her heart began to race. This was no longer an abstract idea but an actual opportunity. "What exactly do you mean by working together?" Jenna asked, surprising herself with her intensity. She felt boldness bubble within her. Ryan leaned back, looking thoughtful. "I have experience in health administration, and I've seen the change we can make. But I've always wanted to collaborate with someone who has boots on the ground, someone like you. Your experience as a nurse, it's invaluable. A knot of uncertainty tightened in her stomach. He spoke as though their ambitions were already a shared narrative, an unfolding tale poised for collaboration. But what if it doesn't work? What if I can't measure up to the expectations? He held her gaze steadily. What works in healthcare is about trial, iteration, and embracing failure as feedback. You're well acquainted with that in a clinical setting, aren't you? That stung, but it resonated. She recalled nights spent in the hospital, where every decision was a dance between critical thought and the real-world implications faced by patients. Failure was a part of healing, and somewhere in that chaos was a thriving potential for growth, if only she could reframe her perspective. Okay, say we do this, Jenna said, feeling a fire ignite within her. What does it look like? Where do we start? She was astonished by her own willingness to venture forward, the timid voice wrestling with a newfound courage. We need to articulate the change we want to see, he replied, his enthusiasm palpable. Perhaps we find a small project to begin with. Something that impacts both patients and staff. Let us start with those fundamental elements, empathy and experience. Jenna nodded slowly, her mind racing through avenues of potential projects, initiatives to improve workplace morale, strategies for patient engagement. The ideas began to burst like fireworks within her. Empathy matters profoundly in administration, she said, her volume increasing with her excitement. Let us analyze feedback from the staff, understand patient experiences, and really listen. We could create a dashboard just for that, redirecting funds as needed to bridge gaps. It's a direct feedback loop. Ryan's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. If we can gather data to support our cause, we can create a model that others want to replicate. This isn't just about us, it's structural change. Jenna felt the weight of his encouragement. It wasn't just her ambitions playing out in a confined bubble, they were carving a path together, yet, as the momentum built within her, doubt snaked back into her thoughts. Could she remain firm in her resolve against the modesty that had always been her protective barrier? This was no longer just a discussion, it was a call to action. Let us set a timeline, Jenna said, trying to seize control of the flow they had created. We need to develop our proposal within the next month. Even if it's just an outline, we can hold each other accountable. Agreed, Ryan replied, a confident smile stretching across his face. Yet as she reflected on his expression, Jenna felt a jolt of anxiety. Accountability meant risk, exposing her ideas for scrutiny, and potentially facing failure, yet she found herself embracing it. What's next? Jenna asked, unable to contain the eagerness in her voice. Ryan tapped his fingers together. First, let us meet weekly. We'll divide the research tasks to ensure no time is wasted. I'll take the analytics, and you dive into the qualitative aspects, gather stories from your colleagues and patients. The challenge felt immense, almost overwhelming, but it also ignited an electric thrill within her. What had once seemed like an insurmountable mountain was now a series of smaller, attainable summits just waiting for their ascent. As they set plans into motion, Jenna felt a shift within herself. This was a golden opportunity not just to shape healthcare but to reinvent her own narrative, one where fear was not an anchor but a sail pushing her forward. But as they continued to strategize, the reality settled upon her that the stakes were higher than she had anticipated. She wasn't just stepping into a new role, she was potentially exposing herself to failure on a significant scale. Would she find the strength to navigate both the professional and emotional storms ahead? The moment shifted again, a defining pulse of uncertainty threaded through their conversation. Jenna's heart raced as she felt the transformative power of vulnerability and collaboration surge through the air between them. Would she willingly commit to this journey, or would her insecurities pull her back into the shadows once again? The decision loomed larger than she expected, its weight reverberating through her as they discussed their timelines further. It was time to confront her fears and embrace the challenge that lay ahead. What if trusting Ryan and stepping into her ambition was the catalyst she needed? Let us flesh this out, Jenna, Ryan urged her, oblivious to her inner turmoil. I believe in what we can achieve. As they immersed themselves in strategies, the bubbling excitement mixed with a sense of urgency reminded her of the critical moments in her nursing career, all or nothing. But the question echoed ominously in her mind: could she truly transform her fear into the fuel she needed to pursue success? Would she dare to push boundaries alongside Ryan? Her thoughts drifted, weaving through the possibilities, and she felt the ground shifting beneath her. The next chapter of her life approached rapidly, and for the first time, she realized she couldn't avoid the truth any longer. The time had come to face her deepest fears and embrace the unknown. Jenna arrived at their agreed-upon cafe the following week, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts that kept her rolling out of bed in the mornings. The proposal loomed large, an immovable mystery of ambition and anxiety. As she entered, she caught sight of Ryan already seated, tapping away on his laptop. He looked engrossed, but the moment their eyes met, she felt a pulse of energy, a reminder of the partnership they were forging. "Morning," Ryan greeted, his voice buoyed by enthusiasm. "I've done some preliminary research on the data we discussed. There's a lot to work with here." "Great. I've been gathering feedback from my colleagues," she said, her words tumbling out faster than her heartbeat. "I didn't realize how many stories were out there waiting to be told. Some experiences are heartbreaking, but they reveal so much about what needs to change. I can compile them into thematic sections." As she spoke, her confidence grew, but under the surface, old doubts churned. The stories she had collected were visceral, rich with emotion and pain. Could she translate that into actionable insights? Ryan leaned forward, his eyes lit with interest, but suddenly the weight of expectation pressed on her like a suffocating blanket. "What's on your mind?" he asked, leaning back while studying her face, searching for the truth hidden there. "I just wonder if I can really pull this off," she said, attempting a casual tone, yet the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "What if I can't expose the depth of these stories effectively? What if I misinterpret what they truly want?" Ryan paused, his lips forming a thin line. "Jenna, it's okay to feel that way. You're giving voice to real people, and that requires vulnerability. But think about it, your background has prepared you for this. You navigate emotions and needs every day as a nurse. Transformation doesn't come from perfection, it comes from the understanding that your input can influence lives." His words were a lifeline. But intrinsic caution still gnawed at her. What if she let those lives down? What if her efforts were in vain? Jenna shifted her focus back to her notepad, flicking through the hastily scrawled feedback. There it was, the raw pain and discomfort that came with her profession, neatly juxtaposed with the hope individuals held. A realization washed over her in waves. She wasn't just a witness to these experiences, she was the bridge connecting their voices to systemic change. With that shift in perspective, the fire within her stirred again. "Okay, let's map out which stories to present," Jenna declared, fighting against the creeping analysis of self-doubt. "I can highlight the impact of empathy, show how emotional experiences can directly lead to actionable procedural changes." Ryan's grin widened, the initial spark of her articulation igniting an infectious energy between them. "That's exactly the direction we need to take. With that framework, we can tailor our proposal to resonate with administration. It's about blending qualitative insights with those analytics." As they dove into the details, Jenna felt herself rising with each thought exchanged. This wasn't merely a project, it epitomized a shift in her professional identity. Each story insisted on validation, and that validation wasn't just a performance, it was a dedication to improving real lives. But amidst that burgeoning confidence, whispers of past failures tightened their grip. In moments of openness, she'd revealed her voice, but it came at a cost. Would this venture merely extend the cycle of vulnerability without resolution? The familiar shadow of fear threatened to disrupt her newfound determination. As they explored potential formats for their proposal, Jenna felt exhilaration surge with each outline drawn. She could picture it, a cohesive document that encapsulated the emotional nuances alongside data-driven recommendations. But would unveiling her true self in front of others and worse risking their feedback thrust her back into that fearful place of self-doubt? Ryan glanced up, catching the hesitation in her brow. You okay? You seem distant. Yeah, I'm fine, Jenna deflected quickly. Just processing all this. Maybe we should also think about how to address potential pushback. Absolutely, he replied. But let us create first, evaluate later. We can handle challenges as they come. His faith in them propelled her forward, yet a mixture of apprehension and adrenaline surged in her veins. What if their initial efforts fell flat? The impact of such a failure could eclipse every small victory she had claimed. You know what? Jenna said suddenly, the words tumbling out with unexpected fervor. Let us not just focus on what we'll present. Let us also prepare for skepticism. I want to fully embrace the process, the highs and the lows. This feels like it's meant to be more than just a project. Ryan raised an eyebrow, not in disbelief but in respect, considering her words. Just as she began to feel a momentary sense of peace, the cafe shifted. The air thickened with unspoken worries. Are you ready to build something powerful, Jenna? He challenged, and she found herself responding almost instinctively. I am. But as the phrase slipped from her lips, a cold knot of anxiety coiled around her heart. The weight of her decision lingered heavily as they leaned into their work, an understanding basking in the triumph of taking the first crucial steps. Still, the echo of doubt remained a constant companion. What if their journey led to nowhere worthy of celebration? The moment pressed forward, enclosing them in purpose. Their ambitions were calling, but the horizon promised both destiny and danger. Jenna took a deep breath, steeling herself for the mountains yet to climb. It was time to prove that the fear she carried could become a testament to her strength, paving the way for successes undiscovered. But would her resolve last when facing the inevitable challenges ahead? Or would she falter and step back into the shadows once more? Jenna sat across from Ryan, a half-finished cup of coffee growing cold in front of her. They had crafted a framework for their proposal that morning, along with a visual layout that mapped out their key messages. Yet, despite the innovative ideas they generated, Jenna felt a current of unease running through her. The flickering reflection of uncertainty in the polished cafe glass was hard to ignore. Let us take a break, she suggested. I need to step outside for a moment. Ryan nodded, keeping his laptop open as she stood. The brisk air outside the cafe wrapped around her like a cold blanket, snapping her back to the reality of the moment. Jenna leaned against the railing, breathing deeply, allowing herself to sink into her thoughts. Inhale. Exhale. What was she really afraid of? Failure. Yes, that was a recurring theme. But it wasn't just the fear of failure, it was the weight of responsibility she felt towards every voice she intended to carry. These weren't mere statistics, these were the lives of real people. Would they see her as an advocate or as an imposter when she stood before them? She recalled instances throughout her nursing career when her voice felt potent enough to alter outcomes. The times she'd advocated for a patient, pushing back against hospital policies, had been exhilarating. She had felt the power of her position, the authority of her knowledge. Could this proposal replicate that experience, if only on a different platform? Many narratives hung in the balance, poised to break free. She could see their energy waiting just beyond her grasp, but this was different. This was a stretch beyond the familiar realms of hospitals and care procedures. Here, she was not protected by the code of emergency medicine. In this role, she was a storyteller, a translator of emotions into actionable change, and she needed to own that role fully. With newfound resolve, she returned to the cafe, where Ryan was waiting with a questioning gaze. Everything okay? Yeah, just needed a moment to think. I realize that my past roles have built a foundation for what we're doing here. I need to trust in my abilities. Transformation starts with believing that I'm capable of this. Exactly, Ryan replied, genuine enthusiasm illuminating his expression. These stories have merit. You're equipped to take them and make them resonate. Their conversation shifted to strategy, brainstorming potential stakeholders and anticipating their reactions. Each idea built her momentum, layer by layer, until time seemed to lose its grip on her. She was moved by a righteous urgency. This project felt transformative not just for others, but for herself. As they delved deeper, Jenna's ideas became more assertive. Encouraging her colleagues to express how moments from their careers had changed their perspectives could frame the emotional journey of the proposal. "We should create a section dedicated to emotional narratives that seamlessly connect to the data," Jenna proposed, nearly breathless with excitement. "Brilliant!" Ryan exclaimed. "This could really set the stage for our recommendations." Inspired, Jenna sought out examples from her own past instances where a patient's experience challenged her views, pushing her boundaries beyond clinical knowledge to empathetic engagement. But threads of self-doubt would rear their head. What if her interpretations didn't connect? Would they resonate with the administration? In that moment, challenge became an ally rather than an adversary. Jenna's mind shifted gears. "How about we create an interactive element for our proposal, something that invites feedback before the presentation even starts?" she suggested. Ryan's nod indicated he was impressed. "That would garner attention, showing immediate engagement can push the story even further. But it needs to reflect honesty, which means we might have to reveal our vulnerabilities too." As the words left his mouth, the reality of it hit Jenna. The spotlight would not only shine on the stories but on them as purveyors of those narratives. There was no escaping scrutiny, and that acknowledgement wrapped around her like a silken shroud. Her heart raced at the idea. This was more than professional development, it was an exploration of her identity. Could she truly embrace this? Would confronting her vulnerabilities not only illuminate the stories she carried but also strengthen her presence in this new role? Ready for some real talk? Jenna decided as they prepared their outline this was the moment to delve deeper. "I think we need to assess the stories I'm pulling from my practice too. What might I have missed about myself?" Ryan leaned back thoughtfully. "You mean what you learned from these patients, your growth as a nurse?" "Yes, exploration of that personal journey could tie the whole proposal together," she asserted. Did she dare to venture into the depths of her own transformation? Was she prepared to face the shadows of her past failures in public view? "Then let us do it," Ryan replied, enthusiasm returning to his voice. "Together, we'll craft this proposal into something compelling. Between your insights and my data, we'll make it impossible to ignore." But even as they dove back into their planning, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling of impending turmoil beneath the surface. The stakes were high, and the pressure was palpable. Would this project force her to confront shadows she had avoided for too long? Would the stories she sought to showcase mirror her struggles and bring her into a light she almost feared? Jenna wondered if this endeavor would mean a reckoning or an empowerment of sorts. The prospect of both thrilled and terrified her. "Let us buckle up," she whispered to herself, uncertain of what lay ahead but ready to transform doubt into purpose. As they worked late into the afternoon, the ideas solidified into coherent plans. Yet, despite her burgeoning confidence, a gnawing question lingered. Was Jenna ready to face the inevitable confrontation of her internal struggles for the sake of others? Days passed in a whirlwind of activity as Jenna and Ryan delved deeper into their proposal. They worked tirelessly, merging storytelling with analytics, and constructing a narrative that promised to shift the landscape of healthcare reform. Jenna's drive propelled her forward, fueled by possibilities and shaped by past challenges. Each meeting with Ryan solidified their partnership, and her confidence soared as they discussed how to craft a message that would resonate profoundly with stakeholders. The weight of their endeavor began to settle on her shoulders, not just as an opportunity for professional advancement, but as a personal mission to advocate for empathy in healthcare. Jenna had started to believe that the emotional stories of the patients she had cared for could fuel systemic changes. Yet, within this exhilarating journey lay an undeniable truth: she had to confront her own vulnerabilities. One crisp Monday morning, Jenna arrived at Ryan's office, her heart racing with anticipation. They were about to finalize the proposal. With each step toward the conference room, her apprehensions swirled within her. What would the reaction be? Could she withstand the scrutiny of those she was about to approach with raw, emotional narratives? As they settled in, Ryan took a moment, encouraging her with a reassuring smile. "This is it, Jenna. You're ready for this." With his words anchoring her, she exhaled a long breath and opened her laptop. The proposal was crafted not just from statistics and projections but connected to life-changing stories, and Jenna could see the contours of a realization taking shape. The narratives would not merely serve as illustrative examples, they would reveal who she truly was as a nurse, a mother, and a voice for change. Jenna voiced her concerns. "What if I truly open up about my experiences, what I've witnessed in my career? Will they see my vulnerability as a strength, or will they question my abilities?" Ryan leaned in, his expression earnest. "Vulnerability is strength. Remember, this isn't just a job for you, it's a reflection of your passions and struggles. It's a chance to connect with your audience in a way that pure statistics never could." With that, Jenna made a decision. She would fully embrace the authenticity of her narrative. It was time to solidify her professional identity on her own terms. As they reviewed details one final time, Jenna's voice grew clear and unwavering. "I want to share my journey, how each patient experience has shaped my perspective, my drive to pursue health administration, and how it's led me here today." In that moment, she grasped the enormity of her growth. This was not merely about a project, it was a defining step toward a new chapter of her life, one where she unapologetically claimed her narrative, shaped by resilience, emotion, and determination. A week later, the presentation day arrived. The room was filled with an audience of colleagues and administrators whose opinions could shape her future, and Jenna felt the weight of expectations resting heavily on her shoulders as they began. With every word, she felt both her fears and her triumph envelop her. She delved into stories that caught in her throat, tales of striving to provide the best care, the moments of heartache, and the victories that intertwined with compassionate nursing. Each story was a beacon of her authentic self, a declaration of her identity as more than just a mother or nurse but as a visionary leader. Ryan stood beside her, providing the backbone of data-driven insights to support her narrative. Together, they created a seamless flow from emotional engagement to actionable change. As Jenna shared, she observed the transformation in the room, faces softened, eyes focused, and a palpable shift in energy tangled with her resolve. The final slide unveiled their proposed changes, structurally designed to enhance both patient care and staff experiences. As she concluded, Jenna infused her closing remarks with a steady voice. "Change begins when we embrace both the numbers and the stories. Together, we can chart a new course in healthcare." The room erupted into applause, the resonance of her words hanging in the air. Tears brimmed in her eyes, both from relief and a deep sense of accomplishment. In that moment, Jenna felt an overwhelming wave of satisfaction wash over her. This was validation not just of her professional abilities but of her journey toward self-acceptance. In the days that followed, the feedback on their proposal was overwhelmingly positive. Administrators praised the insightful blend of narrative and data, and plans began to unfold that would transform the way patient experiences were prioritized within their health system. Jenna was no longer merely surviving, she had conquered the space where her dreams intersected with her realities. Armed with renewed confidence, she had emerged not only as a respected voice in her field but as an advocate for change, a symbol of what it meant to embrace one's vulnerabilities and use them to fuel growth. With each day, she made strides in her career, navigating the challenges ahead with newfound courage. The success of their proposal unlocked doors to new opportunities, mentorship programs, and leadership roles that Jenna had once thought out of reach. As she walked into the vibrant world of health administration, she recognized that her journey was no longer restricted to doubts and fears, it was a celebration of authenticity. Each step forward marked a piece of her transformation, a solidification of her identity, where she stood proudly as Jenna, the nurse, the mother, and the empowered leader. This was her moment, one she had shaped through struggle and resolve. And she refused to let it drift away unacknowledged. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.